get all the attention. In other words, a kid comes out of high school, he doesn't meet Prop 42 standards, and that gets in the newspaper. But you know, that's one of millions of people in that same educational situation, and that's the problem. You know, the college presidents spend all this time dealing with college athletics, and yet there's a much bigger problem out there than the kid that flunks out of college, say, because he wasn't prepared to come in and do the job. You know, and I think John's point should be well taken, that, you know, the problem lies in the way our school system is. I think that's one of the things in this country that's gotten worse as time has gone on instead of better. Kids were being educated much better 20 years ago, and then all of a sudden, you know, that's dropped way off for whatever reasons, and I think that's what's got to be looked at first before you can start worrying about that great 6'10" basketball player that isn't doing well in college.
That is very true. That is the absolute truth. Those guys are just, I mean, if you see an athlete who's having problem academically, you've got to be alarmed. My God, that there's so many others. See, the athlete is very particular. He's been somewhat saved because he's interested in sport. We've been able to control him and guide him, and maybe we failed because he shows that he certainly hasn't learned how to read or write in some cases. But if that's true with the athlete, where we've had a hand on him, just think what it really means for those other youngsters that do not show this kind of promise.
So, John, what you're saying is have a national reform educationally and give teachers money, and we will be able to have the type of kids that we're looking for, right?
Well, I think that the president and the rest of these guys have talked about that, and they constantly move away from the fact that we need more money in the higher education. But try to remember that in the last 5 years, we've had 2 guys who quit and said that the American educational system is perhaps one of the worst and most corrupt in the world. And if you know what I'm talking about, you're talking about the Secretary of Education, Cavazos, who just quit most recently, and the other one, I think, was Bennett, who had quit about 4 or 5 years ago. And I mean, they ran away from it because they felt that there was nothing could be done, and each one of them have written books that stated very clearly that our educational system need to be reformed, and we're talking about at the early level. So if they recognize it at that level, and the president is steadfastly saying that, well, we can do something about it, but it doesn't need more money, it just needs a new attitude, I just don't know how you can reach any altitude only with the attitude.
John, when you look back at that night report and you look at the Texas plan, and I think they referred to it in the night report, no pass, no play in high school. And I think if that's, frankly, that if that's adopted universally, that we won't have the problems at the college level. I think the mistake we made with 48 or 42 was that we didn't give the high schools an opportunity to actually prepare these kids.
Well, I think that that's true, Coach. But here again, you know, we can find if we travel throughout the country, we will find some high schools doing exactly that. But some high schools are not going to move and change their curriculum and some of their policies around for athletics. That's probably one of the things that we have to really understand. See, my major concern is that there are too many of the minority youngsters out there that are not being educated, from whence these athletes come. We just seem to think that the athletes come from some word like Shazam or something. They come from the same environment. So as I've been saying all along, that my major concern is not the athlete, because he's going to get along or get out or whatever, and he still will not represent any major change in our society. The problem is that when I find fault in an athlete, I find a bigger fault in the society in which he came from, and that's where we must make a change so that we will get a greater athlete, a greater person out of that bigger picture. And that's where we're not spending our time. Even as coaches, we're spending time talking about the athlete when he only represents a microcosm of the big problem.
Okay, John, we're getting ready to take a break, but before we take a break, I'd like to leave a thought with the audience and also with the coaches. Maybe Butch Beard can bring the president in with us, since he's here at the seat of government at Howard University, and maybe we can discuss this a little further. Thank you.
Coach Gaines said about that, in my experience recruiting and seeing some of these kids in the homes where the dad's not there a lot of the time, and these kids reach out for somebody to be that substitute father figure maybe. You know, unfortunately, a lot of time, this guy they reach out for is somebody who works at the recreation center or whatever, and his main concern, he sees this kid with some talent, and his main concern is developing this kid's talent to the maximum level because it can benefit this person that works in this recreation center. Instead of making the kid go to school or making him learn his arithmetic or learn how to read, he's concerned with that jump shot or developing his ball handling. And I think if somehow we could get different people that these kids would listen to rather than that guy that has his own interest involved, we might be able to change some things there.
What you have last say so here?
One of the things that just struck me, Gary, when you were talking, whenever there's a career day at a high school, who is the first guy they go out and try to get? A professional athlete, right? Try to bring him in to talk to the kids. Let's be realistic. You know, hey, he can talk to that class, and nobody in that class will never play. It's very hard to get a doctor, a lawyer, you know, a garbage collector in to go and talk to kids about, hey, how to make a living. Because of the mere fact that, you know, we're all looking at that boob tube, same thing that we're on. They see a Michael Jordan, a Larry Bird, a Magic Johnson, and they say, this is the only way out. But it's not the only way out.
It's not the only way out. In
But
fact, you have a less of a possibility of becoming a pro than you would a doctor or a lawyer.
That's right. That's right. And that's
or any other job.
And on career day,
skill.
the schools should really try to get those people in so that the kids would understand that, hey, there are other things to do other than be a basketball player, baseball player, or football player.
So are we in agreement that maybe they should change the standards as far as the role models are concerned and sort of look at in the community, look at the ministers, the school teachers, those people who are physically there with these people, those are the role models instead of the so-called guys such as myself and the entertainment industry as well?
You know, a lot of times, you know, you hear people talk about the fact that young athletes, shouldn't really be thinking about playing in the pros. Well, you know, I tend to, in a way, disagree in the sense that what thinking about playing in the pros does is it gives a youngster something to strive for. And in that striving to, for example, become a professional, there are certain things that most people, you are an exception, have to do. And one of them is go to college. And what we find many times, most of the kids that we get, I mean, they think they're going to play in the NBA. That's fine. But reality will set in for 99.9% of them. And hopefully when reality sets in and when they discover that they cannot play in the NBA, at least they have a degree and they have some other educational learnings that they can fall back on and go into another profession. So I don't think we want to totally discourage youngsters from participating in athletics, because we all know, and we wouldn't be sitting here if it weren't for athletics in terms of all of the other values and lessons that we learn. And it would be wonderful if we could be coaches and teach what we teach best, but we can't do that because we have to be father, mother, priest, reverend, rabbi, you name it, okay, psychologist, etc. The day may come where maybe we can specialize and do the thing that we do best.
Okay, guys, we're getting ready to wrap it up. Again, Spencer Haywood. We're going to let our host wrap it up, Harold Bell.
Well, that's going to be it for Spotlight on Sports. Until next time, I'm Harold Bell.